Welcome to Voices of Adoption, where we share unique perspectives, actionable advice, and meaningful stories of birth parents, adoptees, adoptive families, and other members of the adoption community. I'm Donna Pope, Executive Director of Heart to Heart Adoptions.
And I'm Nathan Gwilliam, founder and former CEO of Adoption.com.
Together, we've been part of thousands of adoption journeys over the past 25 years, and we're so glad you're here.
Let's begin today's conversation.
Yeah,
so,
sounds good.
Colton,
Yeah.
You were adopted as a baby.
Yep, I was.
Tell
Yeah.
us about that.
Well, I was 3 months old when I was adopted.
Why 3 months? Why weren't you adopted as a newborn?
I don't know. Probably because I, cried a lot or something.
We don't want this kid.
Right? He's noisy. I don't actually know the full story on that. I could probably check, but I think, it just has to do with the way that my birth mother, Catherine, had gone about things. And so, I think that's...
And I'm going to stop you right there because you just said my birth mother, Catherine. So clearly where this story is going to go is you knowing Catherine.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So let's not jump ahead, but we'll know that that's where we're going.
Oh, I got you. Oh, so
okay.
I wasn't supposed to say
no.
Gotcha.
We'll jump around a lot.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. All right. Yeah. No, sounds good.
So you were adopted when you were 3 months old.
Yes.
So your family?
Yeah. So I was adopted into a really nice family. They, Claire and Vianne, really awesome people. I've got 4 other brothers and sisters.
Are they adopted?
Yeah, they're all actually adopted as well. So my older sister, she's adopted, my older brother, and then my little brother, he's adopted. But my younger sister, Keely, she wasn't actually adopted. Yeah, so it's pretty cool.
So your parents adopted and then they had one biologically?
Yeah.
That's different.
It is. It is a little different. I think it's really cool. They had the opportunity to help out, a couple lost children, and then they also had, their own.
Their own biologically.
Okay.
Yeah. That's really funny. So you had 4 of you that were adopted and then one biological. Does she feel sort of left out that she's not adopted?
It's funny you say that because, as children, growing up, it was always kind of a thing that, we joked about being adopted. And we actually had a little ceremony one day because my little sister Keely was feeling left out. And so my dad, he actually made up some fake adoption papers so she could feel included, which is, so strange, but, it made her happy, so I think it made everyone else happy too.
Now, obviously it was a transracial adoption where all of it, now we've got this picture of all these hands.
Yeah.
Tell us about these hands.
That's nice, actually. This is my older brother, Garrett, right here.
Ooh, he's got a cut right
see
on
him,
there.
Working man. Then myself, got my hands covered in paint.
Working man.
Another working man. And then, got my little brother, Willie, and then Lexi and Keely. Yeah.
So this is a very multiracial family.
Yep.
So how has that been?
It's been interesting. Growing up, it was definitely different. Nothing between me and my siblings, but out in the world, out and about, it was maybe a little odd.
In what way?
I guess it not having a more traditional family, I guess, was a little bit strange for some people to kind of wrap their heads around. Nothing really very negative or anything like that, but just a little bit, people would see us and like, oh, you guys are brothers and sisters. Yeah. So, just a little different.
You don't look alike.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
So when did you first learn obviously with this variety, you would have known really early that your family was a little different.
You would think, but I don't think I really knew. I guess I knew some intuitively that, there was something a little different, but it never was a thing until much later on in life.
What's later on?
Probably when I was 10, 11, I would say was when it really, really started clicking. But before that, I would say that I'd never really noticed. I just thought that's how everyone was, and that's just kind of how my mind worked. But, I think that, until people really started pointing it out, like I said earlier, like, oh, you guys are all different. Then I started thinking like, okay, maybe this isn't as
maybe everybody isn't
normal
like this.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah.
So when you were growing up, now you're 3, 4, 5, 6, what mattered to you then?
Not much in the way of like, in the terms of like being adopted.
Yeah.
But, just as like a child, I mostly just wanted to play outside and
you
run
were
around.
Very athletic, I understand.
Yeah. I did a lot of track, stuff like that. Did some baseball. But yeah, I was always running outside with my dog and just having a good time with the neighbor kids and, pretty typical stuff, I guess, because we grew up on kind of like a farm, and so it was, we'd be outside from, sun up to sunset if we could. Yeah. So.
And that's what mattered to you.
Exactly. Yeah. That was what would be
From what
important.
I understand, your family was kind of the magnet to all the kids in the neighborhood sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it was, a testament to my mother, that she was able to, watch all of us and have a lot of the neighbor kids coming in and out all day. And so, it was really fun. We were kind of like the home base for everyone around the neighborhood. Yeah.
So I know that you would climb on beds, you guys would parachute off, you'd jump off the roof, just all kinds of stuff.
Oh yeah, we did some pretty wild things. We tried to jump down the stairs with like blankets, trying to jump all the way down and parachute down the stairs. We thought it would work out.
How did it work out?
Oh, not so good. Nothing too crazy, no serious injuries. I think one of the funnest times, we had sheep and we were dead set on riding them. Oh. Yeah. So my older brother, he convinced us it was a good idea. So we got on these sheep and tried to ride them.
This is a good idea.
Oh yeah. We got banged up a little there. I remember falling into the barbed wire fence a little bit, but other than that, we had some really good times. Yeah.
So now you're about 10, 11, 12, starting to go into high school, junior high. How's things going?
That's when I think things got tough, For me specifically, I grew up in an area with mostly white people. And so growing up, Black was a little bit different because I never thought I was different because I had white siblings and white parents. So I didn't think there was anything different. And then that's when, things started getting pointed out to me, like I mentioned before. And that's when I was like, oh, you're different. You need to like act a certain way or be a certain way. And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I have brothers and sisters who are white and they act this way and that's fine.
So help me understand that. How were you expected to act?
It's hard to put into words, I guess, just growing up, it was, I don't know. It's difficult to phrase. And I guess people had their expectations of what Black people were because, like I said, there's not a lot of Black people around. So there's only a few of us. So they get their expectations from TV or from the news about how Black people act and how they should dress and whatever. And I just never fit that stereotype. And so me not being a stereotypical, the stereotype that they saw, that I just didn't fit into their picture.
Interesting, because some people would argue that desire for the Black culture would come from within, but you're experiencing it was being imposed upon you.
Yeah,
and you didn't feel it. You just thought you should be because people told you.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So it was a little strange trying to get around that. I had some identity crisis for a while, growing up in those earlier years. But, I managed to, work my way through it. And a lot of it was through sports. And that's, a big thing. I love sports. Sports is a team sport, or like football, team sport. And so it's one of those things that, it doesn't matter what color you are or who you are.
You're good, you're good.
That's how good you are, And so I found a lot of camaraderie in sports, playing football and basketball and track. And so those are things that really helped me kind of move past that, where people saw me as an athlete instead of seeing me as Black or whatever. Yeah. And I joined the Marine Corps, and so overall, pretty good experience.
And then when you came back from the military?
Yeah, so when I got back, I went to school for a little while up at Utah State, studied political science was my major.
Now, from what I understand, you have 2 beautiful children.
I do, yes. Yeah,
and we'll make sure the pictures of those kids get shown here.
Yeah, certainly. They are awesome. They're the best thing that's ever happened to me. They're really fun. You've got Amaya, my youngest. She is completely just so adorable. The happiest little child you'd ever see. She loves to just run around the house and just sing. And you can't not be happy when you see that, she's just living her own little world, just singing and just having a good time. And my son Slade, just an awesome kid, the friendliest guy you'd ever meet. He's super friendly. He reminds me of my little brother William, because William is just like the most popular kid in school, always everyone loved him. And that's exactly how Slade is.
Slade's 5 years old.
Yeah,
now.
Slade's 5. Yeah. And he's just the same way. I mean, he's the happiest kid, so friendly, always ready to help you out, and he's only 5.
Sounds like you.
Yeah. I do my best. I hope so. I hope to be a good role model for him.
Tell me about the name Slade.
Yeah. So Slade is actually a really awesome name. My mom, she had one of her students, his name was Slade, and they really liked the name, and then they ended up using that as my middle name. And I talked with my partner, and she when we were picking out names, I had always said, like, I want to name Slade, like I love the name, and so we were able to name him Slade, which was really cool. I really like it just because it's a really nice, strong name. Yeah. It's also the name of like one of my favorite comic book superheroes.
There you go.
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. Yeah.
Okay, so now let's go back a little bit. You were 10 years old and you kind of begin to realize, I'm a little bit different.
Yeah, yeah.
And then you went kind of through an existential crisis as you're trying to understand who you are.
Yeah, definitely. It was tough. I started trying to get my mom to buy me different clothes to help me fit in and things like that. It was pretty tough, just as a kid. I mean, I wouldn't wish it on anybody really. It's just, it's tough not feeling like you fit in, and unfortunately it's probably happens with a lot of young men and young women. Where it's difficult to know where you fit with everyone, and trying to be a people pleaser and trying to make everyone around you happy and like you, or for whatever reason, and so for me it was, a lot of it was, the way I maybe talked or the way I acted or the clothes I was wearing, things like that. So I definitely went through a phase where I was trying to look the part of what everyone had expected of this, stereotype that they come up with for me to look or act. And, it took a long time for me to get out of that.
What got you out of it?
Again, it was sports, just the sports did a lot for me. And, and it was something that I carried for a while. I don't think I really immediately dropped it. Just playing sports throughout high school, it took time, in my time, after that, trying to shake it off and really trying to find who I was and who I wanted to be. It's been a lot of years, more or less pretending to be someone I wasn't, and, just being able to break out of that mold did a lot for me.
I'm sure that during some of this time, you may have wondered, well, if I don't quite fit here, what about my biological family?
Yeah. And that was a thing that was, kind of in the back of my mind, just, what are they like? What, maybe I fit in better there. The thoughts definitely crossed my mind.
But you didn't pursue it?
No, not until a lot later. Okay. Yeah. It wasn't something that, I was interested in, but it wasn't, at the time, it wasn't like my way out, if we will.
You're just going to keep on going.
Keep on trucking along. Yep.
So what changed?
My mom had done some research into, because we talked about it on and off, and we ended up doing what was it? Ancestry.com. You do a little sample, and they, find your ancestry. And so we ended up doing that and finding, some relatives of mine. And, she did all the legwork and was able
Your mom did, huh?
Yeah, my mom did. She did all the legwork and was able to find a relative and be able to find my birth mother. So.
Were you aware she was doing that?
Yeah, I was aware. Yeah.
What did you think?
I at the time, I think I was, I was interested, but I was fairly indifferent. It was something that, I'd be interested to find out, but, if we didn't find anything, it wouldn't have been the all end of the world. But, it was definitely something I was interested in. Yeah.
And so when your mom found somebody, what happened?
Yeah. She found one of my aunts that had lived in Portland. And she got in contact with my birth mother, Catherine. And we all met in Portland. And it was interesting. It was a wild kind of a thing. My stepfather equated it to like a Hallmark movie where it was just like we just like saw each other like, oh wow.
What was the oh wow? What was that?
Just oh wow, like because I had no idea what any of them looked like. I had nothing, at this point I hadn't seen any pictures. And so it was just, but we just saw each other and we just knew somehow, it was pretty cool.
We're connected.
Yeah, there was definitely a connection there. And so, it was a pretty special moment, yeah.
And so you hung out together there for a while?
Yep. We hung out and kind of just, it's walked around Portland and talked and stuff and just kind of just really just got to know each other, So it was really, really interesting. Because it's one of those moments that, you have no idea what to expect, because meeting strangers that you're then supposed to just,
be connected to.
Exactly. I mean, it's wild. Just the amount of love that, comes from both sides, how just immediately accepting that we all were of each other,
Love.
Yeah.
You felt love?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
And did you feel love for them?
Yeah.
So it was kind of innate.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, definitely.
So after this visit in Portland, what happened?
After that, we obviously we stayed in touch, and I made a couple trips down to Colorado to go see them, and just be able to spend some time with them and hang out, and get to know some more of my extended family that was out there, and it was really great. Just finding a completely new family that I'd never had before, just adding on to the great and awesome family that I already have, it was just a blessing.
People often talk about that adoptees feel sort of a hole in their identity, a hole in this feeling of I belong. Did you feel that?
I'd say something similar. Yeah. I mean, I think I'd say that's probably fairly common, it's definitely, there was definitely something, and I don't know if I call it a hole specifically, but there was something missing, there was maybe just a part of me that was, missing a little bit. So, and
having met your biological family, spending time with them in Colorado and Portland, did it help with that?
Yeah, it did. It did. It definitely made me feel more complete. It's tough. It definitely took some doing, some, getting to know each other and, be able to talk through some things and, find out stuff, cause there's still a missing piece of my birth father because he is actually, had passed away years before, but, just trying to find out some more information about some other parts of my family that are still out there that, I hope to find someday. Yeah.
And so I'm sure you had a conversation with your birth mother, Catherine,
Mm-hmm.
and probably the question came up, why did you place me for adoption?
Yeah. And for her, I a lot of it was that her her mom was pregnant at the same time with one of my aunts, and so they were I'm not too well off at the time, and so having multiple kids at the same time in the house was a little too much for them, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And we've talked about this, but it's still a bit of a sensitive subject, it can be. It's just tough, I think that she made the best decision that she could have at the time. Mm-hmm. She was at 14 when she had placed me for adoption, and so I wouldn't wish a child on anyone 14. I was barely prepared at 25, so having one at that tender age it would be tough. So I never harbored or any ill will towards her.
Mm-hmm.
I think that she did the absolute best she could. I'm far, far grateful to have been adopted instead of, maybe aborted. So yeah, I think that's the best choice.
Clearly, this is a sensitive subject.
Yeah, a little sensitive for sure. Yeah.
And I suspect for her as well.
Yeah, it's not something she loves talking about. Yeah. So like I said, we've talked about it a little bit, but we haven't really sat down too much and just gotten really into it, which I think we may in time, but it's one of those things that I think that both of us prefer to take our time on. We touch on the subject sometimes here and there, but it's one of those, it's just a really tough thing to talk about,
because there's a lot of shame behind it.
Right. Yeah. But and I don't think there should be.
You don't think there should be?
No, I think that if that's the case, and if that you think this is the best option for your child, go with that. Because I've always been I'm an advocate of adoption. I think that's if you're feeling that you're not able to take care of this child for some reason or another, there's lots of families out there that would be happy to take a child. So
including your parents.
Exactly. Great examples right there. So, to me, it saddens me that there is shame behind it, because I think it's, a very responsible decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so if you were talking to me and I'm Catherine, what would you say?
I'd say, you did a great job, and I appreciate, everything that you've done for me. I appreciate, having that, sense of mind to make that decision. That would be a tough decision for anyone to make, but, I would, I'm just grateful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you foresee as maybe a long-term relationship with Catherine and your aunts and others in that family? So far, because I've known them for quite a while now, we have a pretty good relationship. And they've met one of my children, or two of my children. Oh,
they
so
met
they
them
met
both.
your kids.
Yeah, they've met them both. Yeah, they've
Wonderful.
met my children, and so yeah, they're as much my family as anybody else. And so yeah, no, they'll always be in my life, and they'll always know me and my children. I hope to foster that relationship as much as possible.
Do you have biological siblings?
Yes, supposedly. I think I have two other sisters that were just on my father's side, but I don't know whereabouts they are. But I do hope to find them eventually.
It'd be nice to have
that. It would.
So this is curious to me. In some ways, it's call it a blessing, which I think it is, because you've got these extended adoptive family, you've got this extended biological family. Does sometimes it seems too much, or does sometimes it feels like in conflict?
No. And part of that is because I'm not the best communicator. So
it's not too much.
So
I just don't ignore
it's not
them.
too much, yeah. Because I don't communicate as much as I should. And so no, it's definitely not too much. You know, I try to communicate as much as I can with everybody. You know, everyone's got busy lives and busy schedules, and so no, it's never felt overwhelming. It's always felt great. I mean, I'm always happy that if anything were to happen to me, there's so much love and support within my family that I know that my children will be well taken care of, and they never have to worry. So yeah,
I'm curious about your parents, your adoptive parents, and how that relationship it is with your biological mom.
Yeah, I mean, it's good because we've had them over for like Thanksgiving dinner.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they've all met. We've all sat down multiple times, and I think they have a pretty good relationship. You know,
is that important to you?
It is. Yeah, I would say it is. You know, I want everyone to get along. You know, it's tough. You know, I guess maneuvering through different dynamics, but. You know, I want all my family as my family. And so I'd hope that, anyone can get along with anybody in the same room.
I'm going to push back on that maneuvering between different families. There's tough things. Kind of specify a little bit more. I
guess just maybe emotionally when it comes to like just maybe with dynamic between like Catherine and my mom, just
probably different.
Yeah. They just, I think they get along just fine. They talk and communicate, but I just hope they all feel loved.
I mean, certainly there's a lot of difference.
Yeah, definitely a lot of difference. And that, Catherine's obviously my birth mother and my mom raised me, so there is a difference there, but I think that they get along just fine. Like I said, maybe even more myself, just wanting to make sure that everyone feels comfortable and happy.
That tug of war that sometimes adoptees may feel between biological and adoptive families.
Yeah.
Has that been a challenge?
No.
Tell me why.
I feel like I've set pretty decent boundaries, and even I think that everyone just knows that, we all just want the best for each other, and that, no one's going to be, put down or made to feel bad for anything. So I think that, just with love and respect, that everyone is just fine. And that there's, I've never seen any tension there. And so I can't speak obviously for anybody else,
for sure,
but, for what I've seen, and, I think that it's been really good. Yeah.
So knowing you can't speak for anybody else, I'm going to ask you to speak for some other people.
Okay, sounds good.
So you've got 3 other siblings that have been adopted.
Yeah.
How's it been for them as they've thought through how they might reunite with biological family or not, and have dealt with these issues?
So, yeah. I mean, my older brother and older sister have both reunited with their adoptive parents.
Biological parents.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. And so we've all had different experiences. I mean, I think that I've had the best experience.
And not you're not even a good communicator.
I know. Not that it's a competition. But if it was, I won. Yeah. Okay. No, I mean, they both have really great biological families. Both they're great people. I haven't met them myself. Just from what I've heard from both my brother and his sister, they've had good relationships with them, and we're able to at least sit down and chat with them. I don't know that they had as much desire to stay connected with their biological families as I had, especially my older brother. But I know my older sister, she's in regular contact with her biological family. I think they just they have a different dynamic, than what I do with my biological family. Yeah.
What about your younger brother?
Yeah, my younger brother. I mean, I don't think it's hard because I'm not positive on what's going on there. I think he has found his biological mother, but I don't know if he's been in contact with them.
He certainly has not had the same desire.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he had as much desire as I did. Yeah.
What I find interesting is you're now looking at it from the position of an adoptive mom. It sounds like your mom was not just supportive, but kind of an advocate, and maybe even doing, as you said, a lot of the work to try to get the biological family involved in your lives.
Yeah, definitely. No, she's always been supportive, and they both of my parents have always been very open about it. You know, we learned we were adopted early on, but you know, like I said, it didn't matter much, you know, until maybe later on in life. But they'd always, you know, been very open about it, and were willing to talk about it if we had questions or anything. And they had always said that, you know, if we ever you know, had the desire to find our biological families, that they would do as much as they could to help. Yeah. And
and it sounds like they kind of went above and beyond.
Oh yeah. No, my mom is awesome. She's really good at that sort of thing.
Smoothing them out.
Yeah. Quite the detective.
Okay, so now we're going to talk to all three members of the triad. I'm going to have you address. First of all, I'm going to leave adoptees to the last. I'm going to have you address adoptive families. What advice or thoughts would you share with them?
So adoptive families, you mean?
Like the adoptive parents that adopted kids.
Oh, yeah. You know, I don't know if I have advice to give as a parent. I will say, I mean, I think that the model that my parents had was really good, because it was all very like open and honest about everything. I think that trying to hide things where, like, you know, people don't want to tell their kid they're adopted or something like that, I think that's more detrimental, you know. And I think that it shows just in the way that myself and my siblings, you know, turned out, and the way that we've responded to, you know, being adopted. I think that you know, the best course is just be honest and open, and, you know, just be as loving and caring as possible. And
would you encourage people to do like what your mom did and try to find the biological family?
If the child had the desire, you know, but if
because you really didn't really think you did have a desire, and yet she was out there searching for people.
Right. Well, I mean, and that's, you know, I did have a desire.
You just really didn't voice it.
Yeah, I didn't voice it as much. You know, I think that she wanted me to, you know, have the option. Exactly. You know, and that was, you know, for me meant a lot. It was a lot to, you know, be able to at least have the option. So if I wanted to pursue it, it's something I could, but if I didn't, it's something I could have just left alone, you know. And I didn't feel as much as a desire until after it was something that I was like, oh wow, like this is actually something that's happening. Because before it was always like, yeah, you know, maybe I'll find it one day. But then I was like, oh wow, this could actually happen. Like, you know, and that was, you know, something that was, you know, made that desire more prominent.
And then you met.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a click of, I did want to know this.
Yeah. It was definitely something there for sure.
So now let's go to biological parents.
Okay.
What would you say to them?
I'd say don't feel any shame. You know, I think adoption is wonderful. You know, it certainly can be a tough decision, but, you know, if that is the route that you're looking on taking, I think that there's a lot of great families out there who would be more than happy to take on a child and be able to raise them. And, you know, if it's somewhere that you just feel that you're struggling, then, you know, reach out to someone and take those steps, or at least get some information, because, you know, it's far better, in my opinion, than the alternatives.
You're a dad now.
Yeah.
You know what the challenge would be to be in a position of needing to place a child for adoption.
Yeah. For me, I think I have so much family and support that I wouldn't have to, you know, but if I really felt like that was the best option for my child, and that I wasn't able to take care of them for some reason or another, if I didn't have the support and family that I did, I mean, I would do everything I could, move heaven and earth to keep my child in my life. But if that was the only option, I would definitely, I'd definitely look at it. Yeah.
So Catherine, I'm sure, did not really think when she was 14,
No.
I hope in 20 years I have my son in my life.
Yeah.
She didn't think that.
Yeah, no, I don't think she thought she was going to be able to see me again,
Was she glad?
Oh yeah. Yeah, no, she's glad. We talk on a weekly basis, we talk pretty often. And so, I think she's very happy, and she's always tells me she's got a place for me if, I ever need to, if I ever need, so yeah, no, I think she's very happy. I think it was one of the things that she'd expressed to me, that she was hoping she'd be able to see me again.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So.
Okay. Now, last one, other adoptees.
Tough, I'd say, if it's something that if you want to find your biological family, I'd say, if you have that desire, certainly voice it and discuss it with your, adoptive parents. But, I don't know. It's tough. I don't think it works out great for everybody. That's one of those things that it's tough to speak on, but, I think that there's no harm in finding and looking and getting some information. You might have a tough experience, but at least you'll know. And I think that for me, that was one of the biggest things, is at least I know, just being able to have that connection. And it's, like you said, a hole there's some people that do fill that hole and that need. And, being able to feel that and get some clarity there and have that peace of mind, I think does wonders for a lot of people.
I'm going to touch one more thing on this, okay, and that's that hole.
Mm.
Now, you don't call it a hole, and that's good, but there is for many people, I would even say for all, there's a questioning and there's a desire to know and to understand. Whether or not they follow through with that desire, of course, that's up to them. Mm-hmm. But there's that feeling of, who am I? Yeah. And how do I fit in this world? And where do I belong?
Yeah. And I think that contributed a lot to, that kind of identity crisis that I talked on. Being adopted and, not feeling like I fit in, that whole, that you could, or where do I fit and where do I supposed to belong? I think that is definitely real, and again, for me, with the whole identity crisis, I think that kind of fed into that and made it more than it could have been, I guess. Mm-hmm. But it's tough to work through. I think that people got to find their own way to how to maneuver through that. But it's definitely a situation, because I don't think that my siblings felt it nearly as much as me. I think that they I don't know. Again, I can't speak specifically on, maybe they did, but from what I saw and experienced, I don't think any of them felt it the same way that I did. Mm-hmm. And so I think it hits people differently, mm-hmm, depending on your unique situations.
It's been a joy for me to talk with you, and I'll tell you some of the reasons why. My opportunity to talk to people who have navigated this process, mm-hmm, I don't always get that. I sometimes will be able to talk to people who haven't been able to navigate it, and there's some anger and some frustration. Yeah. The people who have moved through this seamlessly, mm-hmm, they don't care to talk to me. Yeah. They're not going to talk to me. They don't care. Yeah. This isn't important to them. Talking to someone like you who has struggled with it, mm-hmm, and is moving through it and has been able to be around other people who have moved through it, yeah, but all have these challenges. It's a matter of how do we move through them.
Yeah. And that, I think is the most important thing, is You can't let some of these things get on top of you. It's who are you going to be on the other side? You know, our unique experiences really shape who we are. And, you know, even, you know, for example, my son and my daughter, they're both, you know, of color as well, you know, and I want them to, you know, be able to move through life seamlessly. You know?
Which they won't.
Exactly.
Which they won't.
Yeah.
And that challenge of we're all going to face stuff.
Yeah.
All of us are going to face stuff. How do we develop the skills and the abilities to move through it and not collapse?
Yeah. You know, I think that you know, one of those things that, you know, you fail a lot. You know, I think that you have to fail, you have to fall down and get back up. You know, it's just one of those tough things in life. Sometimes you've got to learn lessons the hard way. And a lot of times it doesn't come as the way that you'd hope, but, you know, it's the way that you might need. You know, and it for me, I think that my experiences, you know, even as a young child, you know, developed me and, you know, I made me who I am today, you know, and I think that I've turned out okay. I'm not the best, but
I think you turned out great.
Oh, I appreciate that. I do my best, you know, that's all we can really hope for is just that we can do our best and, you know, get up every time that we fall.
Thank you, Colton.
Yeah, of course, Donna. It's my pleasure.
Thank you for listening to Voices of Adoption. I'm Donna Pope.
And I'm Nathan Gwilliam. Every voice in the adoption triad deserves to be heard and understood.
Visit voicesofadoption.org to subscribe and access additional resources. And then join us next time as we continue to build bridges through conversation.